This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stick around to the end of the video for a special offer they're making available through my channel. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. Hope you're enjoying the games, by which I mean the video games, because no one watches the Olympics anymore, let's be real. I've had a great week, lots of reviews out, a few previews coming up as well. We're at the beginning of the downward slope into the packed year-end release schedule, and that's always my favorite time of the year. Plenty happening on the news front as well, so let's talk about it. Let's start with some bad news. Forza 7 end of life. That's not a phrase that should ever be associated with video games, but sadly it is. This week, Microsoft announced that Forza 7 would hit end-of-life status, meaning that the game and all of its DLC would no longer be available to purchase. You can still download it and play it if you own it, that won't change, but you won't be able to get your hands on it if it doesn't already sit in your library. When asked, what the fuck? ? On Twitter, the Forza Twitter account politely explained that some of the licensing agreements set up with auto manufacturers had a use-by date, which means their entire game had a use-by date. I think this sucks, and I think from a video game preservation perspective that publishers need to negotiate better deals or develop their games in such a way that licensed content can be easily removed. But I know that these are complex challenges, and I'm not a lawyer, thankfully, so what do I know? Very little, let's be honest. On the bright side, Xbox is killing it. This week, the Big Green crowed that the Xbox Series X and S consoles were the fastest selling Xboxes ever, with more consoles sold life to date than any previous generation. This is despite the fact that supply chains have been hit really hard by COVID, meaning that it's been really hard to get your hands on a next-gen Xbox even if you wanted one. Still, it shows how much this industry has grown in the space of just one console generation, since it's still the fastest selling console, even when people couldn't buy it. Imagine what the sales data would look like if shelves were stocked instead of picked clean by scalpers. As if to reinforce the point, Sony also announced their PS5 sales data this week, and spoiler alert, they sold a shit ton of them. Sony revealed that over 10 million PS5s have been sold since launch, also making their next-gen console the fastest selling PlayStation console in history, also despite the fact that stock is basically non-existent. The console wars are dumb, and anyone who unironically participates in them is a fucking loser. You can quote me on that. The sales data here is a reminder that a rising tide lifts all boats. Video games are booming, and every platform is fat with players and great titles to play and cool new hardware to look forward to, like the Steam Deck this year, or the PSVR 2 at some point, or the Switch Pro. I'm just joking, that's never coming. Point is, when it comes to the console wars, we're all winners. Except for the console warriors, they're fucking losers. One bit of Sony news that is a little bit of a bummer is the rumored delay of Horizon Forbidden West. You might remember that Sony recently held a Horizon gameplay showcase, but didn't reveal a release date for the title, something that seemed a little odd at the time. Well, a report from Jeff Grubb of VentureBeat has been backed up by Jason Schreier of Bloomberg. Turns out that Horizon Forbidden West will likely receive at least some sort of delay, likely pushing it into early 2022. This is fine. We don't want developers overworking themselves or pushing out games that aren't finished. Take your time, Guerrilla Games. It does leave a gap in PlayStation's holiday lineup, but it's not like it's going to affect console sales anyway, since scalpers don't care about exclusives. Alright, let's return to the disappointing saga of Blizzard and its alleged culture of harassment, discrimination, and worse. Again, this week, content warning, some of the stuff in this section hits pretty hard, so you can skip ahead to the time on screen if you'd prefer. A lot went down this week. There was, of course, the employee walkout, which saw thousands of Activision Blizzard staff either walk out or stop work in solidarity with the victims, and to show their disgust at Blizzard's appalling responses. Activision CEO Bobby Kotick swooped in to do some late-stage damage control, acknowledging in his statement that the company's earlier statements had been, quote, tone deaf. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. With insight like that, it's no wonder you get paid $150 million a year. As Bobby tried to regain control of the narrative, Kotaku released an article titled Inside Blizzard Developers' Bill Cosby Suite. And yeah, it was pretty much as bad as it sounds. Pictured here are luminaries of both Blizzard and the games industry as a whole, with people like Greg Street having gone on to lead Riot's upcoming MMORPG project. The article would go on to detail a sort of green room that operated during BlizzCons, with at least one text exchange that discussed inviting hot chicks to the suite. The commentary got progressively worse from there. Some of the people pictured here would argue that they had no idea what the Cosby connotation meant, putting it down to some ugly Cosby sweater-like rug that appeared in one of the hotel rooms one time. But allegations of Cosby's sexual assault surfaced nearly 10 years before this picture was taken, and while Cosby wouldn't be charged or convicted until later, it was kind of an open secret by this point that the guy was a creep. Speaking of creeps, Blizzard confirmed to Kotaku that a central figure named in the lawsuit, Alex Afrasiabi, was fired from Blizzard over misconduct. This was suspected earlier, but has now been confirmed. His removal took effect in 2020, so it really only took the better part of a decade to get this guy out the door. Good job, Blizzard. It got even worse later in the week when it was revealed that one of Activision's IT employees had set up a secret camera in the women's bathroom, and another instance of a female IT security professional being asked at a jobs convention if she liked being penetrated, which is a term used in IT security, but it's also a pretty shitty joke to make to a woman who approaches your booth to inquire about employment. Don't worry though, all of this is sure to get better since Activision Blizzard has appointed Wilma Hale to fix it, a law firm who have a reputation for being union busting and who have previously assisted Amazon in shutting down potential unionization at their warehouses and factories. Just the people for the job. This story is not going away. It's not even slowing down, and it's clear that Activision Blizzard have no interest in engaging their staff in good faith. I expect things will get worse before they get better. Activision Blizzard are not alone in this sordid affair. Ubisoft has now long been known for its toxic work culture, and this week the staff signed an open letter making clear that they are not happy with the changes management have recently made. The open letter slammed Ubisoft for its, quote, empty promises, end quote, a reference to the fact that many of the people responsible for abusive management or sexual harassment allegations are still employed at Ubisoft, just employed in different positions or in different offices. It's the loudest Ubisoft staff have been on the subject in recent months and was motivated by the industrial action taken by Activision Blizzard staff and their open letter calling out Activision Blizzard leadership. Like I said, this story isn't slowing down and we'll continue to talk about it here. Alright, let's finish up this block with some good news. This week, ArenaNet held their long-awaited End of Dragons webinar where they showed off at least some of the stuff coming to the game when the expansion launches next year in February. Guild Wars fans, new and old, can expect a new location to explore, a new specialization for each class, which apparently is a thing that gets added in every major Guild Wars expansion. I can't imagine adding a new spec for every WoW class every few years. That sounds totally wild. There's a new mount, it's called a Siege Turtle. I'd ride that. They're also adding fishing to the game, and I couldn't believe this because I was like, what the fuck? How did this game not have fishing? It's an MMO. So I had to check this with my editor, Austin, who is obsessed with Guild Wars. And yes, they're adding fishing. Welcome to 2002, Guild Wars. Nice to have you with us. Anyway, there's a bunch of other cool stuff coming with End of Dragons, and I plan to check it out because I've never played Guild Wars before, and I feel like it's about time. Speaking of MMORPGs, the closed beta for Amazon's New World just wrapped up, and it went pretty well, mostly. The game peaked at over 200,000 concurrent players on Steam, and since most of those people would have had to have paid something to have been able to play the beta, that's a pretty healthy sign of demand. Yes, the game was bricking 3090 graphics cards, which is kind of awkward, but I mean, it's their own fault for having such a high-end GPU anyway. It's like Karma or something. I say that as someone with a 3080, so I don't really have a leg to stand on there. I didn't get a chance to play New World because I was busy doing important things, but my editor, Austin, did play it, and I asked him to give you his impressions in a new segment I'm calling Editor's Choice. Pretty good name, huh? Take it away, Austin.
Hello, I'm Austin. The only reason Shillup's videos are even remotely watchable. You're welcome. Unlike Shillup, who's too busy wasting his life on Destiny, I actually played the beta of Amazon's upcoming MMORPG New World. I spent over 20 hours with it, completed the first dungeon, did some PvP, and honestly, it's not bad. Combat initially felt clunky, especially at range, as PvE mobs will suddenly move at Mach 10 speeds once aggroed, making combat feel inconsistent and unpredictable. I warmed up to it though once I switched over to a full melee build where my wide, sweeping attacks would counteract their erratic movements, and I did end up having a pretty good time. It's clear the game was built around PvP though. Facing players is a lot more enjoyable than mobs. Duels feel like a true test of personal skill and outplay, and when armies collide, you can't see shit, but there's still fun to be had amongst the chaos. Also, just quickly, the sound design on some of these abilities is fucking awesome. There's some issues here, like maybe a little too much jogging, and the quests can get stale pretty fast, but New World is really nailing the social, player-driven aspects of an MMORPG, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with it when it launches on August 31st. In the meantime, let me tell you about my favorite MMO, Guild Wars 2, and its upcoming expansion,
Austin?
End of Dragon. Oh, you already covered it. Damn it.
So, what got announced or delayed this week? Well, first up, The Pathless is making its way to Steam after its PlayStation and Epic exclusive window has ended. This is a beautiful game with an incredible soundtrack from the same person that did Journey's soundtrack. I loved this, and I really recommend you check it out when it hits Steam on November 16th. I'll leave a link to my review in the description below. The stunningly beautiful Solar Ash got a release date as well, October 26, coming to PlayStation and PC. Its sumptuous trailers have been winning hearts since it was first revealed, though details on the gameplay side of things are still fairly light on. Either way, I'm looking forward to this one. Mortal Shell is a Souls-like that was released last year to very solid reviews all round, and this week it was revealed that it's getting an expansion. It's called The Virtuous Cycle, and it apparently puts a roguelike spin on the third-person Souls-inspired combat, which, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, that fits. That'll be out on August 18th. Biggest reveal of the week. Biggest reveal of the year. Biggest reveal of the generation, most likely, was the reveal of DLC for Outer Wilds. Actually one of the best video games ever made, probably the best. Please at me on that. Echoes of the Eye will be out September 28th, and I'm excited because it gives me an excuse to award Outer Wilds my Game of the Year award for the third year running. The expansion is set within the existing loop of the original game, giving you a new section to explore and apparently leaning deeper into the horror elements that are one of the more incidental aspects of Outer Wilds' design. One day I will figure out how to make a video that does Outer Wilds justice, but it is not this day. Until then, just take my word for it. Please play it. It's next. There were delays this week too. Upcoming Kiwi-made survival game Icarus got a huge bump. It was meant to be releasing this month, but now it's releasing sometime in November. By way of compensation, the developers revealed a series of beta tests that will kick off in late August and continue right up until the game's launch in November. Skatebird. This looks adorable. You're a bird who skates. What's not to love? It was also meant to release soon, but it also got bumped to later in the year, September 28th to be precise. Nice little trailer revealing that delay. It really softened the blow somewhat. Finally, one of PlayStation's biggest hitters copped a delay, Kena Bridge of Spirits. It was meant to release this month but got pushed to September 21st. This is looking absolutely spectacular, from its art design to its animations to its world to its everything. It just looks incredible. Really hoping this one delivers, and I don't mind having to wait a little longer. So what came out last week? Neo The World Ends With You hit PS4 and Switch last week, and it's getting solid reviews all around. 80 critic and 8.5 user score on Metacritic. The ever-reliable Easy Ally scored at an 85, saying, quote, "Despite the huge gap in time, Neo The World Ends With You manages to capture the essence of the original while simultaneously moving the series forward," end quote. Tribes of Midgard arrived on a whole bunch of platforms, and it too has landed pretty well. 79 critic score, 7.7 user score on Metacritic, and 72 mostly positive on Steam. Sentiment seems to have landed on the idea that the game probably isn't worth your time if you're playing solo, but co-op play with up to 9 of your friends is meant to be a blast. Chernobyl Light released in 1.0 after a long period in early access. Critics have it at 75, but users are more enthused at 8.3 on Metacritic and 87% positive on Steam. This is meant to be a lot more Fallout than it is Stalker, with a big focus on resource collection, base building, and developing relationships with your teammates. Reviews point to an experience that's a little janky, but well and truly worth the price of admission if the setting is something that appeals to you. The Forgotten City landed this week as well, and I actually reviewed this one, link in the description. I enjoyed this, but this is one that I couldn't straight up recommend because there were a few big things that didn't quite land for me. Not so for many others. This game is sitting at 85 critic score, 7.9 user score on Metacritic, and 98% very positive on Steam, which is huge. This was made by a small team of 3 Aussies who worked for 5 years to convert their Skyrim mod into a standalone game. Awesome to see all their hard work pay off like this. Biggest release of the week was The Ascent. Now, I have to admit that I wasn't expecting this one to be quite as divisive as it turned out to be. I loved it, ACG loved it, many other critics did not, with the game currently sitting at 74 critic score, which broadly lines up with the user score of 7.5 and the Steam score of 79% positive. There were some technical and polish issues that hold this one back, but a lot of people just couldn't gel with the gameplay. Some found it too repetitive, others found it too hard. I found it to be neither of those things. I really love this, and I totally recommend it to you. I will leave a link to my review in the description below. So, what's coming out this week? First up, we have Hunter's Arena Legends, which arrives today on the PS4, and it's also the PS Plus free game of the month for PS5. This has been out for around about a year on Steam, and it's always sat at mixed, currently 48% positive, so that's not a great sign. To be fair though, a lot of the recent reviews point to the fact that the servers are dead, so people literally couldn't play rounds. I guess that's also not a great sign. It's a 30-player PvEVP Battle Royale game with an Eastern kick to the face, because it's martial arts. Get it? Okay, I don't plan on playing this one, but if you do, I hope you have fun. I tell you what I am playing, Death Trash, releasing in early access on the 5th on Steam. During the recent Steam Next Fest, Death Trash positively stole the spotlight, serving up a weird, quirky, creepy, vomit-fueled CRPG that took us back to the glory days of the original Fallout games, only with more meat. Since meat spontaneously grows on the ground and stuff, it's really gross. Anyway, the early access release is exclusive to Steam and has around 5 hours worth of gameplay of the promised 20 planned for launch. Get in on the ground floor in this one, people. This is one of those hipster games where you'll tell people you'll like this one while you're on a date, and the ladies will be like, "Oh, he's so sophisticated. Finally, I found a real gamer." That's definitely how women think, by the way. I saw a thread about it on 4chan. The Falconeer arrives on PS4, PS5, and Switch on the 5th, after being exclusive to the Xbox and the PC for a while. It's a weird one. You ride a falcon around and dogfight, or falcon fight, and there's also some exploration stuff in there as well. It got mixed reviews, but there's also some DLC dropping this week, and that might change a few people's minds. 2 massive releases this week, highly anticipated, but they're finally here. The first, Lawnmower Simulator, arriving for Xbox Series S and X and PC on the 10th. Now you too can follow in Forrest Gump's footsteps, driving around in circles, staring slack-jawed into the distance while performing a job that could be replaced by a Roomba. If science could only figure out how to make the thing work on grass. Come on, Elon, get to work. Speaking of science, they said it couldn't be done. They literally said it could not be done. But sure enough, it got done. Godfall, the much somethinged looter slasher wallet scammer, was originally touted by its developers as being so dependent on the power of the PS5 that it couldn't possibly come to other consoles. Well, it turns out that when your game bombs hard enough, developers can find a way to squeeze a game onto whatever platform is going to help them make up the sales shortfall. Godfall was a true catastrophe at launch, and it remains a great source of pride to me that I was able to save so many people from forking out as much as 180 Australian dollars for the collector's edition of this game, or any money at all, really. Please do not buy this. Just don't. For me, please, just don't. Instead, put this on your radar.
West's full of tall tales. Strangeness, oddity, evil. But the West, it's also got heroes of a kind.
Weird West is an upcoming Western-themed isometric CRPG immersive sim from the developer Wolfeye Studio. Why should you care about this game? Well, Wolfeye Studios is comprised of a whole bunch of people from Arcane Studios, makers of the Prey and Dishonored series. Wolfeye is actually founded by Rafael Colantonio, who is the co-founder of Arcane Studios. He left that gig because he didn't want to do AAA game dev anymore, and his new project reflects that. It's smaller, more focused, more niche, but no less deep or interesting than any of the other games he and his team have worked on. I got the chance to sit down with Raf in a group Q&A where he showcased his new game, and it looked fantastic. So much responsiveness in the environment, so much expression possible on the part of the player, and some absolutely fantastic art design to boot. I know this one looks a little weird, it's meant to, it's in the title, but trust me on this. This is going to be one to watch. Weird West doesn't have a release date yet, but it's coming when it's ready. Sort of free stuff time, a few things to check out this week, but most of it we touched on a little last week. Epic kicks us off with Mother Gunship and Train World Simulator 2, currently free until the 6th, at which point you'll be able to get Speed Brawl, which is a momentum-based 2D platformer. Looks kind of fun. The other free Epic game is A Plague Tale Innocence, the absolutely superb third-person adventure game set in a war-torn, rat-infested France. I know it doesn't sound like too idyllic a location, but trust me, it's worth visiting. Beautiful visuals, strong storytelling, great puzzles, and so many rats. There's a sequel coming out next year, so this is a great chance to get ready for that one. Twitch is very, very strong this week. We mentioned it last week, but it's so good it bears mentioning again. Right now, you can get your hands on Battlefield 1, but getting quick because that wraps up on the 5th. In addition, right now, you can also get your hands on Battlefield 5, which Battlefield fans don't really like, but it's a free game, and you can play it, or you can just have the code and give it to someone, and you'll look like a really nice person, but you're really just giving them a copy of Battlefield 5. Haha, joke's on them. The PS Plus games for the month were leaked by Sony last week, but were confirmed this week. Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville and Tennis World 2 for PS4, and Hunters Arena Legends for PS5. They should be available to add to your library in the next 24 hours or so. And get this, games with gold this month doesn't suck. I know, I can't believe it either. This month, Uncle Phil comes in clutch with Guru, Mark of the Wolves, and Lost Planet 3 for Xbox 360. And for Xbox One, you're looking at the beloved platformer Yooka-Laylee and the sort of controversial Darksiders 3, which a lot of people really disliked, but I quite enjoyed, and I think the hate it got was a little undeserved. Anyway, they're all available this month in addition to the absolutely stellar Game Pass lineup for this month. It's a good month to be a stingy gamer. Speaking of stingy, our feel-good story for the week comes courtesy of a place where you can get 24 chicken nuggets for $12. McDonald's. That's a good deal, by the way. This week, McDonald's Australia, or Macca's as we call it here, turned 50, celebrating half a century of clogging our arteries with whatever it is that makes the ice cream stand to attention like that. Is it glue? It's got to be something like glue. It's probably glue. Anyway, part of the birthday celebrations targeted one of McDonald's core demographics, gamers. McDonald's would sponsor a range of mostly Fortnite streamers who would give away free Maccas, yes please, but also a custom PS5 Macca's controller. Look at this thing. I'm loving it. Sadly, it wasn't meant to be. CEO of Sony Jim Ryan, or someone in his legal department who gets paid to ruin fun, reached out to McDonald's and asked them to stop using the controller as part of their promotional materials, meaning that the custom controller would no longer be made or given away. Personally, I think this is a clear case of console bias, where Sony is clearly more a fan of KFC, or as we call it here, Dirty Bird. Hopefully Phil Spencer can step in and deliver us the Happy Meal we need. Custom McDonald's Xbox controllers, please. Or a free Big Mac with every month of Game Pass. That works too. God damn it, I should really be in marketing. I'm wasted on this YouTube shit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the week in video games. You've been a fantastic audience as usual. Thank you for coming out tonight. Remember to tip your waitress, and by tip, I mean leave a like on the video, hit the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and leave a comment below detailing the most amount of McDonald's you've ever eaten in a single sitting and what led you to make such terrible life decisions. Thank you all, and thank you to this week's sponsor, Squarespace. If you've been around these parts before, you've probably heard me talk about Squarespace once or twice, maybe. No, but seriously, Squarespace has been supporting this channel for around 2 years now. They are in fact my longest running partner, and I really do thank them for that. I've always loved having them as a partner because they put out a great product that I am more than happy to recommend to you. If you haven't heard of them, Squarespace is a platform that allows you to easily create custom-built websites that look professional. So if you're starting a business, or you want to promote your art, or you want to start a blog or whatever, then Squarespace is the perfect place to do just that. You just select a template, customize it in minutes, enable whatever features take your fancy like e-commerce or calendars or a comment section or whatever you like, and then you can publish it. There are of course detailed analytics allowing you to see how your website is tracking, so you can see, what people are clicking on and how the website is doing, which is of course very important. To get started, visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to get serious, visit squarespace.com/skillup for a 10% discount on your first purchase of a website or a domain name. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.